Wavelength Radio presents Happy Hour with Cameron Cooper.
All right, thank you for coming back to Wavelength Radio. This is Cameron Cooper with Happy Hour. Glad you're with us, and hope you enjoy the intro music. All right. Well, previously we were just speaking about the secondhand smoke and the City of Phoenix smoking ordinance and how that affects our establishments and our persons out there that like to smoke. But not to beat a dead horse, I want to move on to another subject. And the next subject I'd like to move on to is something here current in the current, not real current, because I don't know, it's been maybe 6 months ago it was like really current and it was like all over the news. Now it's like just here and there you hear a little bit of an update. We're talking about sexual assault serial killer Mark Goodell. And KTR radio website, I don't know if that's KTR.com or whatever, I don't really know, but great brother sister station, if we could be so adjacent like that. But love their format, love their hosts, and we would like to not do anything offensive to them in any way, their content or their deliverance. However, that what made me think about this is that I was looking at the KTR website, and Mark Goodell was on there, on their front page. Mark Goodell, I've had mixed emotions about this. First thing about this, 6 months ago, back in the winter months, was that it seemed like it was such a hot topic, and I remember the broadcasts on all the networks, local networks, news stations, that they had his house. Mark Goodell's house was filmed. It was on the news, and I even remember there was a short bit of one station, not to name any, where I remember seeing the actual address on the house or the street, and so it could be very easy for any viewer to surmise where they lived at, and I thought that was inappropriate, and I don't know what station or stations was responsible for that. However, I think when they're broadcasting on any show you see, on Cops and shows like that, I'm assuming Cops is still on. I haven't watched TV for so long on shows like that, but they'll even void out or blank out the license plate number on a vehicle while they're doing it, or their face of a person if they're underage or what have you. But I think the privacy of something, of someone, especially of someone accused or their close people in their life, wife, girlfriend, children, or even neighbors in the vicinity, I would think it inappropriate to be able to validate something about an address. And I do recall very vividly, because I thought, wow, that doesn't seem like something I should be looking at right now, that I did see information on my TV screen from some broadcast from a local network. We've got Channel 3, Channel 5, Channel 15, Channel 10. Somebody's news broadcast had this person's information available, even if for a split second. If you're recording this information, you can do your research and play it back and find out. And maybe it's even, maybe I'm stupid here, maybe it's information that people can get through public records about assaults and or not necessarily assaults, but arrests and things of this nature that are public record and research. But even beside that, though, someone wanted to do research, though, you're just your normal Joe Schmo that's looking at a broadcast of a news station. He shouldn't really have access and be privy to that information on where someone who is supposedly accused of doing something resides, and even if he is responsible for these things that they say he is possibly associated with, should it be something that should be out there for the normal public to have quick access to? Because there's a lot of nutcases out there, guys. I mean, you look at it. I mean, I live in my neighborhood, and I hear gunshots not as often as I used to, but I still hear them. And you always wonder, well, what was that shot about? You know, was it a drive-by? Was it someone shooting someone inside their house? You wonder. You're laying there at 3 o'clock in the morning, you hear these shots. It's like, what is it about? It's something to consider. Nonetheless, though, all of our establishments in the news deliverance environment, we should be conscious of what information we provide. Whether it's information that is directly accessible through public websites or public information, that's beside the point. We need to be particularly aware of what we're saying and in what content. And if we want to be opinionated, that's fine if something's out on a plate. But when you start giving someone's information about where they live, I mean, you could be setting them up for some kind of aftermath or sideswipe that you have no idea where it's going to go. But anyway, enough of that. Back on Mark Godeau. I want to pull up this site here that I was looking at, if I can find it. Now, this is actually on KTAR, and they're not actually saying anything that's not out there in the general public, but I'm only using their site because I like their site, and I like their format and their DJs. And at the end of the line, it says, prosecutors say they've got DNA evidence that ties Godeau to the sexual assaults. But defense attorneys say they're skeptical of the forensic analysis by the police. Okay, that's fine. That's really not a lot of news. It's back in the news for whatever reason because of what actions have been taken in the courts and in the prosecutor's office and what information they're giving us. But this is like old news. Back before, 6 months ago in the wintertime, when this was like, when they first caught Godeau, I remember seeing him in news footage on TV that he looked, he was smiling, his wife was there, and he's in the courtroom, he's dressed up in his suit, and he's looking rather confident, and rather non-innocent, if I could say. But, you know, if someone's going to go and do these amount of assaults, and at that time, and from last I recall, here recently, this getting back in the news, they were saying that they had tied him to a couple of assaults, but back before, if you will recall, there was a serial rapist and a serial killer out on the loose. Excuse me. And they were trying to find somebody and pin this stuff on somebody and to basically resolve the case and to put the public interest and the public concern at ease, which any city would like to do. But I think possibly what we're seeing is that we had a situation which was horrible and horrific, but it wasn't necessarily this guy that did everything they said 6 months ago that he did. All right, why are we only seeing a couple now, a couple of assaults, when back, 6 months ago, it was, I don't know, it was up in the numbers of 10s or more, or 16 or 15 or whatever it was? I don't really recall. But it was like headline news. And then it's headline news, we've caught the guy. So everything that they showed about his wife or girlfriend or live-in person or whatever, she seemed pretty convincing. But of course, she's going to, if she's trying to cover for him, or if she believes in him and he's got her snowed, either way. But I'm just curious about why do we now have this thing about Grideau where it's a couple of people or a couple of assaults, a mom and her daughter or something. I'm not really sure. I'll be very honest with you. I work so much, I probably watch as much news and catch as much information as your normal lay worker does, 9 to 10 or 7 to 3. And how much information do you catch on the news? You're fixing your coffee, you're getting yourself ready to go to work, and things of that nature. But my curiosity is, what happened to the other 10 victims or the more victims? What? It doesn't matter the number. Now we're down to a couple, but what happened to all the other victims that we supposedly were persecuting this guy in the news for before? Maybe he's guilty, maybe he's not. But let's find out. But my question is, why did we have to have somebody, and I'm going to use this term real loosely, why did we have to have a scapegoat? And not that he's the scapegoat, but why did we have to have, quote, a scapegoat of any kind of connotation or any kind of level of guiltiness to pacify a city that could possibly be on pins and needles about a situation? Why do we have to target someone and go after them even if they're not for the same case? Maybe we were merging and blending several situations or several cases to avoid a situation. Well, I'm not those people in legislation that make these decisions. And maybe the people at the news stations have people in municipalities that dictate to them or persuade them to come out with something. This is the real world. We'll talk more about this in a moment. You're listening to Wavelength Radio. This is Cameron Cooper with Happy Hour.
Listening to Wavelength Radio from Cool Wave Picture.